to start the recording of the session. So Alex, please take it away and tell us why students should be studying in Michigan. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Marty. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Smith, and I'm coming to you today from East Lansing, Michigan. I'm very excited to kick off our presentation today. So I actually am so excited that I get to talk about why Michigan, because this is my home state. And it's a place that I love talking to students about coming to study here. And truly, if there's ever a topic that I get excited about the most, it's this one. So thankful I get to share some information and help you get excited about the opportunities here in the great state of Michigan. So, as Marty already mentioned, Michigan is located in the Midwest of the United States. So we are bordering Canada, and you can see some of our other bordering states here. And many times when you meet someone from Michigan, they will hold up a hand to maybe indicate where they are from in Michigan. So for example, I'm from here originally, but now I live here. And this is truly a thing that we do. This is not just something that, a few people do. Many people will point to their hand to show where they're from in Michigan. But our state is one of the 10 most populous states in the United States, and many of you probably know already, but there are 50 states, and Michigan is special because it is surrounded by beautiful freshwater lakes. We have a nice mix of urban and rural areas. We have some national lake shores and other beautiful areas that many people like to visit, especially this time of year. Today is a beautiful sunny day. It's in the low 20-degree range in Celsius and about 75 degrees Fahrenheit today. So Michigan has a lot to offer, both at the universities and all around. So we'll talk about some of those opportunities today. Here you can see a picture of a beloved Michigan monument called the Mackinac Bridge. And this connects the southern part of our state with the northern part of our state. So this is a scene that everyone in Michigan is familiar with and could tell you. You see it on our license plates, on our cars, and signs all over the state. But as you can see here, we have more than 31,000 students from all over the world who come to study at the universities here in Michigan. And there's a wide range of universities. So public universities, private universities, community colleges, many options all over the state for you to potentially study. And we do have a long reputation that spans decades of international relationships and recruitment. So we're well experienced and excited to welcome more international students to our state. Some of the other unique aspects of Michigan are that we have a really wide range of options. So I already mentioned the public universities, private universities, community colleges. These all range in size in the program offerings. So there are universities that can offer associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, graduate and master's and PhD degrees. So many different options in many different regions of the state. And we do have a high student population because we have many locations where people can study. And people in Michigan love to be in Michigan, and people that we welcome to Michigan, I think, find it to be a great place too. So as you can see here, the last statistic on this page shows that more than half of the international students that study in Michigan will stay here for optional practical training, or OPT, as you might know it, after graduation. So I think many students find that it's a great place because there's the mix of urban and rural and many different industries like the auto industry, the insurance and healthcare industries, even some financial and of course computer type industries, and natural resources, agriculture. There's so many things to do here in Michigan and to study and to get practical experience with. So the main cities in Michigan are Detroit and some of its larger suburbs, and there's more than 5 million people in that particular area. So that's our largest urban area in Michigan. And then in my area here, Lansing, this is the capital region. So there are lots of opportunities here in several schools in this area. And then we have the Grand Rapids area, which is another large area, in Saginaw and Flint. And then as you travel outside of some of these areas, there are also other beautiful towns and cities that are a bit smaller, but have really unique and interesting economic opportunities and study opportunities too. And most importantly, for some of you, and I know for me, as someone who lives here, I really appreciate that Michigan is relatively low cost of living within the United States. So it's a place that is affordable for students and for families, and there's lots of great opportunities to take advantage of that and have a good experience without some of the higher costs of living in other parts of the United States. Important for you to know, the college life and that experience is very lively in Michigan. And as I mentioned, there are all kinds of different options for college life. And when I speak with students about choosing a university, the most important things I emphasize, of course, you want to do well in your studies and do well in your classes, but also get involved outside of the classroom. And this slide kind of highlights some of these opportunities. So we know that you're coming to study and get a great education, but we really want you to take advantage of some of these things you see here. So as mentioned earlier, there are thousands of other international students for you to connect with, thousands of course, students from Michigan and around the United States to befriend and to learn more from. We have many cultural opportunities on our campuses, including music, dance, different community service organizations, sports, almost any sport you can imagine, because sports are quite popular in Michigan, but you'll find that there are so many other sports that maybe you haven't had a chance to try. And I would encourage you to try those out while you're here if you would like, or try out a new instrument or a new language, something like this. There's so much that you can do outside of the classroom on our campuses. Talking about the application process and scholarships and how all of this works, the thing that many of you may have heard before is that it depends, right? So when we have questions about universities, it depends on where you are applying. So if today you get great information about one of the universities in Michigan, it's important to ask them about their application process, because things can be a little different at each of the universities. Many of us have our own applications available on our website. Some of us are on what is called the common application, if you're familiar with that. And so there are options, and it's great to get an idea of what each university would expect of you, what the timelines are. As you can see here, there may be an application fee, so it would be great to ask the university if they have an application fee so that you have an understanding of what that might be. And then, of course, understanding the deadlines. So universities may have different deadlines for bachelor's seeking students, master's students, different deadlines throughout the year. So these are great questions to ask as you're getting to know the universities later after we finish up our presentation. So keep this in mind, and when you get a chance to interact with us a bit, definitely I recommend asking questions about these aspects of this. And then as you work through the application process, you may want to know more about the cost of the university and if any scholarships are available. So certainly you'll want to ask questions about that too, because many of our universities are able to offer scholarships and types of financial aid. So we want you to know about this so you can take advantage of it when you apply to our universities. I would say one piece, I mentioned the different types of applications. Typically, universities have no preference towards any of these applications. So if you see a university that has multiple ways of applying, don't be too intimidated by this. I know it's a bit different than other systems, but you can submit typically any one of the application options, and it's treated the same way. So whether you apply with the common application, the university's online application, or something else like the coalition application is one that is used a little less frequently, but is also out there. Just know that there are options for all of these things too. So the key word, once again, is it depends. When you're asking questions, if you're speaking to us, we can provide information about our specific universities, but each university, it will be important for you to make sure you understand what they are looking for in these processes. Oops. So switching gears a bit, Michigan, as I mentioned today, it's a beautiful, sunny, it's technically still spring day, but it feels like summer. And so we here in Michigan really value the different seasons and the chance to enjoy all of the activities throughout the year. This is one of my favorite things about Michigan. And if I were to live somewhere else, this is something that I would honestly miss about Michigan, because I love even the winter. I know many students who travel to Michigan maybe haven't experienced weather like we experience in Michigan, but it's fun because it never stays that way for too long. Things will change. You can enjoy activities at different times of year that maybe you've never tried before. Some of you want to try skiing or snowboarding for the first time, or riding a snowmobile. These are very popular activities in Michigan. The different sports that I mentioned have different opportunities to participate, all different types of activities, different times of year that you can do. As you can see here, this looks like a picture of Lake Michigan, which is probably my favorite of all of the 5 Great Lakes, and 4 of them touch Michigan. Lake Michigan has some of the nicest beaches and has lots of different places that you can visit and go with friends, and they're not typically too far from some of our larger cities here in the state. But the autumn or fall is another beautiful season that a lot of people will go on trips to go see the leaves, and the weather starts to get a little cooler. It's very comfortable. It's typically popular for American football and some other fall sports. So this is something that I think many people in Michigan really look forward to each year. It's also the start of the school year. So it would be, for many students arriving, that would be the time of year that's most common for students to arrive in the state. And then in the top left, you can see some of Michigan's heritage, especially West Michigan, comes from the Netherlands. So this is in a town actually called Holland, and there's a beautiful festival there each year called Tulip Time. And many people from all over the United States and around the world will visit Holland for Tulip Time each year. And then the big picture in the top right, you can see a typical winter day in many parts of rural Michigan. So Michigan is a huge state, and it covers quite a lot of ground. So for example, you can drive north from Detroit, the largest city in Michigan, and you could drive for more than 9 hours and still be in Michigan. In fact, Washington, D.C. is closer to Detroit than the furthest north part of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So it's a big state. There can be a wide variety of climates, and there's so much to explore here, both urban, rural. Like I mentioned, there's so much to do in all the 4 seasons in Michigan. And here's some other beautiful pictures of our state. In the top left, that is Grand Rapids, which is the 2nd largest city. That's kind of the area where I actually grew up. So I love to see Grand Rapids represented there. In the top right, you will see the city of Detroit, which is our largest city with an amazing history, some of the largest concert venues and sporting facilities and wonderful museums. And it's actually right across the river from Canada. In fact, this picture that you're seeing was probably taken in Canada looking out at the city of Detroit, which is kind of interesting. In the bottom left, that's the Greektown neighborhood of Detroit. So one of the things that I love about Michigan is the true mixture of different cultures, and you'll meet families that have made their way to Michigan from all over the world and shared their unique culture with us. And I love reminding students of all the different cultures you can experience in Michigan off of our campuses. And this particular area is kind of cool, and it's called Greektown, which is in Detroit. And then you'll see pictures from some other nice downtown areas in the smaller towns. And once again, I believe that's a picture in Lake Michigan. And then in the bottom right, you can actually see our state capitol, which is just a few minutes away from where I'm sitting right now here in East Lansing. That's in the city of Lansing, right next door. So with that, I'm really excited I got to cover all of that information with you. I'm excited to hand it off to my colleague, Scott, who will talk to you a little bit more about scholarships and financial aid. And we're excited to answer your questions moving forward too. Thank you.
And before we get to Scott, we just have a couple questions that just have a minute or two for questions, Alex, if you don't mind.
Sure.
A couple of general questions. One is if it's a student that has a specific interest in law, that he's wondering if he studies law in another country like the United States, can he go back to get a job back in his home country in that field? Maybe talk a little bit more about the kinds of jobs that are, what kind of law studies international students typically do in the US.
Yes, so in my experience, some of the international students I've worked with, there's a few different options. So the most common in the United States would be a JD, a Juris Doctorate. So that is the very formal, what you think of when you're discussing going to law school, preparing to become a lawyer and take the bar exam, for example. My university, for example, has an option for a master's of law, and some of my other colleagues might also have this option too, that can open up other doors. So regarding what you could do back in your home country, that would depend on your country's legal system, and it would be kind of a case-by-case basis that you would want to discuss with someone from a university who might be able to provide more advice. But there are those two options typically. One is more of a master's, the other is more of a doctorate kind of degree. And the doctorate is typically at least a year longer, and it's quite competitive. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But there are options, and the students that I've worked with, some have done either of those paths. So that would I'd kind of summarize it in that way and say, definitely check in with one of the universities to see if they have more advice about this.
Great, thank you, Alex. And there are some other questions that aren't necessarily relevant to financial or to Michigan in general. We'll probably get a chance to answer those a little bit further down the line. So thanks, Alex.
You're welcome. Thanks, Marty.